Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Energy Institute membership webinar. And thank you for taking some time out today to tune in and listen. My name is Terry Winter. I'm the Membership Development Manager at the EI, and I'm going to talk to you today primarily about the application and assessment process for professional membership and registration. So what you need to do if you want to apply for one of our professional grades or one of our additional titles such as Chartered Engineer or Chartered Energy Manager. Just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded and I will add it to the EI's YouTube channel afterwards. And I'll send you all an email with a link to access that so you can re-watch the webinar if you need to, or you can share it with friends or colleagues or anyone who might be interested. It is a one-way audio session, so if you have any questions, please type them in the chat function. You should be able to find the chat box in the bottom right-hand corner. You might need to go to your menu to find it first, but if you type your questions there, I will answer those questions as best I can at the end of the webinar, which should take about 1 hour, and that includes the question time at the end. Equally, if there are any problems with the audios or the visuals, if you can't see me, the slides, or you can't hear me, again, send me a message privately and I will do my best to resolve those as we go. Just to begin, a bit about the Energy Institute itself. If you don't know much about us, so we are the chartered professional membership body for people who work across the world of energy. And we cover the entire energy sector. So from renewables through to oil and gas, energy efficiency, sustainability, utilities. We cover the entire sector. We are a charity and we're incorporated by Royal Charter, which means we can award chartered status to those who work in energy in particular disciplines. We have around 20,000 individual members and 200 or so company members and partners. And we are very much a global body. We have branches and young professionals networks all around the UK, but also we have networks in places such as Africa, the Middle East, the Caribbean, and various parts of Southeast Asia. Our purpose is to create a better energy future for our members and society by accelerating a just global energy transition to net zero. That's our purpose, but that will make a lot more sense when we move to the next slide. And we have a membership grade for everyone who works in energy or perhaps is just interested in energy. And there are opportunities to seek professional recognition as long as you can meet the standards and competencies required. And it's worth pointing out that we're an industry-focused professional body, not a discipline-focused one. So as long as you study energy or you work in the energy industry as a whole, then we will be able to support you in some way. There'll be something of value to you. And just to mention, if you'd like to find out where your nearest branch or young professionals network is, you can have a look at the EI Near Me section on the main EI website. So just to elaborate slightly on the EI's purpose, which again you can see in the top left-hand corner of your screen there, it's much easier to understand how we go about achieving that purpose if you break it down into three smaller themes. So the first thing we do is we attract, develop and equip the diverse future energy workforce. So for example, we provide training courses in a number of different areas, such as energy management and risk management, to help give people professional qualifications. And of course, we do it by helping people to get chartered. The second theme is informing energy decision-making through convening expertise and advice. So one example of that is our annual events program. We put on events throughout the year, but both at a local, national and international level. And that brings together people, it brings together knowledge. We invite expert speakers, and there are opportunities to network. And the last one, enabling industry to make energy lower carbon, safer and more efficient. Well, that points towards our good practice program. We work with lots of companies and partners. We have various committees, and we all work together to produce good practice guidance, standards used across industry with the aim of making energy lower carbon, safer and more efficient. We do a lot more than that, but hopefully that just gives you a flavour of some of the things we do to help achieve our purpose. Okay, so moving straight on to the different membership grades that we offer. So this slide shows our 3 introductory grades of membership. Student is for those who are studying either undergraduate, postgraduate or PhD level, or you might be on an apprenticeship. Affiliate membership on the right-hand side is for those who either work in energy or actually just have a general interest in energy and they want to keep up to date with what's going on. An associate member in the middle, or AMEI, is for those who want to develop their career in energy, they want to progress, they want to work towards professional membership and registration. Now, for all 3 of these introductory grades, you can join online via our website. If you look in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a button that says Join the EI. Click there, create an account unless you already have one, and then follow the steps through to join. It only takes a few minutes, and that will give you immediate access to all our benefits and services. The other crucial point is that you have to be a member with us at an introductory level in almost all cases in order to upgrade or apply for professional membership or registration. So in other words, it's the mandatory first step that you need to take. You have to join at one of these grades. And this next slide shows our 3 professional grades of membership: technician member, member and fellow. And you can see the post-nominals, the letters that you can put after your name if you are elected. Technician member is very much for technicians. It's for those that make things work at ground level, people that are solving practical technical problems. They may be involved in the guidance and supervision of others, but they're not necessarily leading projects and managing teams. But technician members are expected to have a good knowledge of the energy sector as a whole. Member in the middle, or MEI, is for all experienced, competent professionals that work in energy. Members are innovators, they're often experts in their field, and they'll be working in responsible roles in energy. So members will have a good level of leadership and management skills. They will be managing projects, they will be managing people, and they'll have a broad knowledge of the sector. And lastly, fellow, or FEI, well, that's the highest grade of membership that we can award. It's for the leaders in energy, it's for the influencers in the sector. It's for those that really drive the profession and make a difference. And fellows will have an advanced knowledge of the energy sector. Now, obviously, for these 3 professional grades, you can't join online. you have to put together a written application, which is put forward for a formal assessment. And I'm going to go into that in a lot more detail later on. This shows a standard route to professional membership, if you like. You begin as a student member whilst you're studying. Once you've finished your studies, you'll upgrade to associate member. And once you have the necessary experience and competence that's required, we'd expect you to upgrade to a professional level or incorporated or chartered membership. That's not the only route. Obviously, some people might not necessarily study or go to university. They might come straight in at the associate member level when they already have some experience in energy. And this slide shows, so all our professional grades and registrations all on the one slide, and I'll try my best to simplify this. So you can apply for one of our professional grades on its own, and lots of people do that. You could apply just for technician member, just for fellow, if you wish. And that is a form of professional recognition. You have to go through the assessment process to get awarded those grades. But you can also see that we are licensed by the Engineering Council to award Chartered Engineer, Incorporated Engineer, and Engineering Technician registration, or CEng, iEng, and EngTech, respectively. And we're licensed by the Society for the Environment to award Chartered Environmentalist registration, or CEnV. And on the right-hand side in green are our 3 exclusive chartered titles: Chartered Energy Engineer, Chartered Petroleum Engineer, and Chartered Energy Manager. So those 3 titles you can only get with the Energy Institute. You can't get those with anywhere else or with any other professional body. Now, obviously, for the additional titles, you can't apply for one of those on its own. You have to apply for that together with our professional grade of membership. So let's say you wanted to apply for Incorporated Engineer or Chartered Environmentalist or Chartered Energy Manager, then you should be looking to apply for, well, you have to apply for member at the same time. Unless you already are a member, if you're already an MEI, then you can apply for one of the additional titles separately. Technician member and engineering technician, they come hand in hand. There's so much crossover between those two that you would almost always apply for those two together. It's a bit different for Chartered Energy Engineer and Chartered Petroleum Engineer in that they have to be applied for together with Chartered Engineer, CEng. And as you know, you can't get CEng without also applying for professional membership. So if, for example, you wanted to apply for Chartered Energy Engineer, you would also need to apply for Chartered Engineer and Member. So that's 3 titles essentially that you're applying for, but it's all integrated into one application. You don't do 3 separate applications, you do one integrated application which covers all 3 of those titles, and within that application you'll be demonstrating different competencies which align with those titles. So I hope that makes sense. If you're still not sure how that works and the different combinations that you can apply for, then feel free to type a question in the chat box. And as I said at the beginning, I'll answer all those questions at the end. But while it's fresh in your mind, you might want to type the question now. Okay, so moving on to some of the key benefits of membership. I'm not going to go through all the benefits because there are quite a lot. But what I've done is I've picked out just 4 here that are great for your CPD, first of all, and CPD is a crucial element of any application, professional membership. But also these benefits might actually help you on your journey to professional membership or chartered status. So the first one is EI Connect, which is our mentoring platform. It's been around for just over a year, I believe. It's open to mentors and mentees. It's exclusive to professional members of the EI and associate members. So if you are an affiliate and you want to access EI Connect and you want to apply for professional membership, then it might well be worth transferring across to associate member. And all you need to do is just get in touch with us and we'll do the rest. We'll sort that out for you. But EI Connect is great for a number of reasons. So you might want to, for example, learn more about a particular area of the energy system. That might be your goal. But actually, a lot of people sign up as a mentee to connect with someone who has been through the process before. So they're already a professional member, or they might already be chartered, and they can advise you on the sorts of things you need to do to get there, to achieve that goal as well. They'll know what experience you need and the types of competencies that you'll need to build. So I'd highly recommend signing up for EI Connect to help you and gain some advice. Then we have My Career Path, which is an online professional development tracking tool. It's good just for recording really your CPD as you go. Feedback we often get from applicants is that it's really difficult to remember what CPD you've done over the last few years. So if you can find some time, update your CPD record as you go. And if you don't have your own system already, use My Career Path to record that CPD. It's free for EI members to use. You could also sign up for an event or training course, which are almost always at a discounted rate if you are a member with us. You get significant discounts as a member. And they're really useful in terms of developing your knowledge, learning new skills, learning more about sort of different aspects of energy and the energy system. And if you want to keep up to date with what's going on in the energy industry, read our weekly digital magazine, which is called New Energy World, which contains the latest news, views, and developments in the energy sector. And that's a really great way of keeping your finger on the pulse. So that's just a few examples of some of the benefits you get access to as a member that can help you on your journey. It's not all of the benefits by any means. If you want to learn more, have a look at the website, the EI website, to learn about all the other benefits that you have access to. And you might also be thinking, what's in it for me? Why go through that assessment process to get professional recognition? Well, first of all, it's a mark of your commitment to professionalism and best practice in energy. It's like putting a stamp on your energy credentials. It can also help to advance your career. It shows employers that you have the competence and the expertise and the work ethic that they value. It's quite a robust peer review process. We don't just hand out chartership. And employers know it. They know what you've been through. They know that you've been assessed by energy professionals, by senior figures in industry, and they will be impressed by that. It's almost like receiving an external validation. It can also help you to stand out in what is quite a competitive industry. It could be the difference between you and a number of other candidates. If you're going for a job, it can help you get promoted, and more. It can also increase your credibility with peers and clients in the sector, and it might unlock some new opportunities for you. Our titles aren't just recognised in the UK; they're recognised internationally. So that might open up some opportunities that weren't there for you before. But don't just take it from me. We have collected a series of testimonials or case studies. You can find them on the membership page of our website. So read what our actual members are saying about why they sought professional recognition and EI membership, and how it's benefited their lives and their careers. Okay, so now on to the process to apply for professional membership, which is why I know a lot of people have signed up to this webinar today. So the first thing you need to do is download an application pack from our website. If you go to our homepage, if you go to the membership and career section and then click on membership, you'll see a box for every professional title that we offer. Click on that box and there's a button where you can download the application pack. And that pack contains everything you need to put together your application. The pack also contains 2 sets of guidance notes, and I can't reiterate enough how important it is to read the guidance notes before you begin your application, because they explain, everything that's required, the standards, the competencies that we're looking for, what's involved in the process. One is more sort of general about the process, and one is more specific to the title that you are applying for. So make sure you read both sets of guidance notes thoroughly before beginning your application. Then you complete parts A and parts B, which I'll explain in a moment. Make sure you proofread your application, get your sponsors to check through your application, and then when it's ready, email it to us at professionals@energyinst.org, where our professional membership team will take the first look at it. So what's involved then in completing part A and part B? Part A is a set of documents that you need to pull together. And as I said, in the application pack, you'll find the templates that you need to use. So there's an application form, which is very straightforward, entering your personal details, your career history, qualifications. Make sure you indicate which title you're applying for clearly, or titles if you're applying for more than one, and make sure you sign the form at the end. The application form almost acts like a checklist where you can tick to make sure that you've got together all those documents that you need. In most cases, you'll need 2 sponsor references, and there's a sponsor reference form in the pack that they'll need to fill out. And on that form, again, they'll need to sign the form, but crucially, they'll need to add some supporting comments to that form. So why are they sponsoring you? Why do they feel that you are suitable for the grades you're applying for? And make sure those comments are very positive, very detailed, rather than just a sort of generic statement. The PDR, or professional development review, and there is some guidance in the guidance notes on how to write your PDR. This is essentially an overview of your energy-related career, giving us an insight into the roles you've held in energy and showing the progression that you've made in your career. CPD, I've mentioned briefly already. There is a CPD template form that we recommend that you use. You don't have to use our form, but we highly recommend that you do. And on that CPD form, it will ask for the date of the CPD activity, what type of CPD activity it was, and most important of all, what did you learn, or what did you gain from doing that CPD activity, and how have you used the knowledge and understanding? Have you used the knowledge in your career, in your everyday work? We need an organizational chart just to show visually to who you report and who reports to you. We need copies of your academic certificates and photo ID. We don't need the originals, we just need copies, scanned copies, and they all need to be signed by someone of professional standing, not yourself, someone else, to say they are true and accurate copies. The photo ID needs to be a suitable form of ID, such as driver's license or passport. And there is an application fee for each title. It does vary quite a bit. So if you want to know how much the application fee is, again, go to the membership page of our website, scroll about 2/3 down, and you'll see a section called fees, and you'll be able to find them listed there. Part B is arguably the most important part of your application. It's the competence grid, and I'll show you an example in a minute. And the competence grid is where you need to demonstrate, you need to show that you meet all of the competencies required for that particular grade or title. There is a competence grid for each title. So if you're applying for member and chartered energy manager, there'll be a competence grid to do for member, and there'll be a separate competence grid to do for chartered energy manager. If you're applying for chartered engineer, along with either chartered energy engineer or chartered petroleum engineer, again, there's just 2 grids to do, not 3. It's one for member and one for chartered engineer. There isn't a separate competence grid to do for chartered energy engineer or chartered petroleum engineer. And I've mentioned competencies quite a lot throughout the webinar. This shows what they are, but broadly speaking. So the A competencies are all about your knowledge and understanding. The B competencies are all about application to practice. So how you use that knowledge and understanding in your everyday work. And then there's leadership and management skills, both of people and work, communication and interpersonal skills, and commitment to professional standards, so health and safety at work, codes of conduct, that type of thing. But what happens to those competencies is they are broken down further, and this is where the competence grid comes in. So the A competence becomes A1, A2. The same happens with B, C, D, and E. So here you can see the MEI competence grid, or sorry, an extract from it. Competence is on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, that's where you put 2, maybe 3 examples at most to explain how you meet that competence. And it's no good just putting very brief bullet points there. You need to go into a bit of detail and explain not just what you did, but how did you do it? You know, give them sort of a step-by-step account. What did you do? How did you do it? What did you achieve as a result? And give metrics and stats and data if you can, and if you think they are supportive. I am seeing some questions come in the chat function, which is fantastic. And as I said, I'll answer those at the end of the webinar. This is an extract from the Chartered Engineer or CEng competence grid. So again, this is the B competence broken down. And what you'll see here is that we've provided some bullet points on the left-hand side to give you some direction, to give you an idea of the sorts of things that you'll need to demonstrate. You don't have to cover every single bullet point on the left-hand side. It's purely to give you some help to make you think, right, this is what I can write about. I'll respond to maybe 2 of those. And just some general do's and don'ts when you're writing your PDR and your competence grid. Make sure you write in the first person. This is about what you've done, what you've achieved personally. It's less about what your team have done or what your company as a whole have done. As I said, include facts and figures if you can. That's not always possible, but things like if you're talking about managing a project, telling our assessors how many people you manage in that project team, what was the budget, what was the scope of the project, things like that really do help. There will be crossover. You can use the same example to demonstrate multiple competencies. That is acceptable, that's allowed, but we'd say try to pick different examples in the grids if you can, because you want to show the depth and breadth of your experience. There are obvious things like don't forget to proofread your application. Don't forget you're being assessed on your communication skills as well. So make sure there are no spelling mistakes, the punctuation's correct, just basic things like that. And we often get a CV sent in instead of a PDR, and that wouldn't be accepted. A PDR is much more than an extended CV. Don't leave any gaps in the grids. You have to demonstrate every single competence to be successful. And stick to the word count as best you can. In the guidance notes, it tells you how many words you should be aiming for. Try to stick to that as best you can. It's about being succinct, but at the same time being very clear, clearly showing how you demonstrate the competence in question. When you submit your application, the membership team will have a look at it first. That's purely just to make sure you've submitted everything you need to. And then it goes forward to our membership panel for the formal assessment. 2 assessors will look at your application, and we try to pick assessors that have similar experience or similar specialism to you or have done in the past. There is plenty of opportunity to, they'll give lots of feedback, lots of detailed feedback, and then you'll have the opportunity to go away, fill in any gaps if there are any, and resubmit with further information if you need to. Interviews are mandatory for professional registration, so CEng, IEng, Chartered Environmentalist, etc. They're not mandatory for our professional grades. If you're just applying for member or you're just applying for technician member, an interview isn't mandatory, but it is at the discretion of the membership panel. You still might need to do an interview for those, but you have to do an interview for the additional registrations. And yes, we do interviews remotely. I can't remember the last time we did a face-to-face interview since the pandemic. So we normally use, I think, Zoom, Teams, and other platforms. The next application deadline to aim for is the 31st of August. However, if your application is ready or it's almost ready, send it in at your earliest opportunity, and we will try and kick off that process or kick off the assessment process to try and reduce the turnaround time. in terms of what's involved with the interview, it normally lasts between 45 and 75 minutes. There's no exam, there's no presentation required. It's essentially a discussion with your peers about the application you've submitted and your career in energy. But when you're answering the questions, always keep the A to E competencies in mind, because if there are any gaps in the competencies, then that's where they're trying to explore those, and they're trying to get more information out of you to prove that you can demonstrate those competencies. So always keep those in mind when you're being interviewed. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about the specific requirements for our professional titles. And just to start, you might not be aware that we do have a simplified route to become a professional member, to become a member or a technician member. But that's specifically for those who are already registered as a chartered engineer, incorporated engineer, or chartered environmentalist with a UK professional body or Engineers Island. If you already are, and you have you can demonstrate a track record of working in responsible roles in energy, then you can apply for the quicker route to become an MEI, what we call the professional registrants route. Similarly, if you're already registered as an engineering technician or EngTech with a UK professional body or with Engineers Island, then you can apply for technician member on this quicker professional registrants route. But as part of that application, there are less documents to submit, as you can see there on the slide, but you do need to be working in energy, and you do need to be able to demonstrate a track record of working in responsible roles in energy. So this might apply to you, or it might apply to people you know, so do spread the word. There's more information about those on the membership page of the website. There are no application deadlines for this route, and there is currently no application fee. Okay, onto the engineering titles, and it get a bit more complicated now, but hopefully not if I explain it well. So for the 3 engineering titles, CEng, iEng, and EngTech, there is an educational standard that you need to meet, and they're different for all 3, and you can see them on the slide there. I'm not going to read them out. So you have to meet that standard first. So what you need to determine first of all is whether the qualifications you have are accredited for CEng, iEng, or EngTech by the Engineering Council or under any international agreements such as FIANI or the Washington Accord. If you go to the Engineering Council website, they do have an accredited course search there, which is very useful. So you could check there to see if your qualifications are accredited and get a head start. Now, if your qualifications are not accredited, maybe at all, or maybe they are only partially, then you have to do interim registration first. This is a process we have in place. All professional bodies will have one. They'll call it something different. We call it interim registration. And that's for those who want to apply for CEng, iEng, or EngTech, but do not have accredited qualifications. And in other words, they can't demonstrate the foundation, technical knowledge, skill, and understanding required. So in other words, it doesn't stop you from applying for these titles. It just means that it might take a bit longer. It's a bit of a longer way around. You have to do interim registration first. Now, what I would recommend is that you, again, on the membership page of the website, if you download the application form for interim registration, fill it in, put in your qualifications on there, and send it to us, we'll do the checks for you. We will check to find out if your qualifications are accredited or not, and will advise you on the next step. If they are fully accredited, fantastic. You can be awarded interim registration straight away if you wish, or you can skip that altogether and move on to the second part of the application, which is demonstrating the professional competence and commitment. That written application with all those different documents that I've gone through already. If they're not accredited and you have to do interim registration, it's essentially filling in another grid. And on that grid, you have learning outcomes. So honours level learning outcomes and master's level learning outcomes. And you need to demonstrate how you meet those learning outcomes by talking about your, the academic studies that you have done, on the job learning, and anything else that's relevant. But if you're not sure, and it's, you've checked the Engineering Council website and it's still uncertain, fill in the interim registration application form, send it to us, and we'll do the checks and let you know exactly what you need to do. Just to summarize, for the 3 engineering titles, you need to meet that educational standard, but it's also, it's not just about education, it's about practical experience that you have in engineering in the energy sector. You need to abide by our code of conduct, commit to maintaining your CPD, and you need to be you need to join as a professional member at the same time. All this stuff we've already explained earlier on. Okay, so moving on to Chartered Environmentalist, which we're licensed by the Society for the Environment to award. You can see a profile of a Chartered Environmentalist there, but if you look in the guidance notes in the application pack, it goes into a lot more detail. So our Chartered Environmentalists work in a variety of different roles. I've listed some here. So we have sustainability consultants and sustainability managers, researchers, directors, consultants, environmental coordinators, and those working in climate change, which is obviously a very sort of pertinent topic at the moment. Could argue it has been for a long time. Like the engineering titles, Chartered Environmentalist does have a educational requirement, which is a relevant master's degree or equivalent. If you don't have a relevant master's degree, you need to show that you've developed master's level knowledge of energy and sustainability in other ways. So, for example, referring to other academic achievements, self-directed learning, work-based experience, those types of things. You need to have relevant practical experience, of course you do. You need to demonstrate all the competencies. As well as abiding by our code of conduct, you need to abide by the Society for the Environment's code of ethics. And again, same rules apply. You need to commit to maintaining your CPD, and you need to be or join as a professional member. Every year, just going back to CPD quickly, every year we randomly select members that need to provide up-to-date CPD records, and it's actually written into the code of conduct that you declare that you will commit to maintaining your CPD. It's absolutely essential. Here we have Chartered Energy Manager, and again you can see a profile there. Chartered Energy Manager is one of our 3 exclusive titles. Essentially, you'll be providing advice on energy use, energy policy, energy efficiency. You'll be analysing an organisation's energy performance. You'll know about current legislation. You'll have a good level of leadership and management skills. But have a look in the guidance notes for a full profile of a Chartered Energy Manager. And additionally, we have various energy management training courses on offer. if you have a look at the events and training section of our website, you'll be able to see the full portfolio of energy management training. They're not a prerequisite. You don't have to do the training to become or apply for a chartered energy manager, but they'll definitely help you to demonstrate some of the knowledge and understanding that's required. So we're talking the sort of A competencies there. There's no educational requirement for chartered energy manager, but obviously you do need to have relevant practical experience in energy management. Same things again, code of conduct, CPD, and joining as a professional member. And ESOS lead assessor status is something that you might be interested in, or it might be something that's quite essential for you or your organisation. We've been approved by the Environment Agency to award lead assessor status as part of our chartered energy manager application. If you are going to apply for ESOS lead assessor status, there's an extra competence grid to fill out. I think they're called the PAS, the past competencies. And once you're elected as a chartered energy manager, you automatically qualify for ESOS lead assessor status, pending an online, it's a quick online training course that you need to do before you're added to our registers of lead assessors. So almost at the end, so what are the next steps? Well, the obvious one is to join us if you haven't already, if you're not already a member. Make use of all those benefits and resources that are available, and update your CPD record. I think a lot of people think CPD is just a technical training course or a master's degree. It's much more than that. It's listening, it's tuning into webinars, it's taking part in events, it's reading our magazine or doing your own research. It could be mentoring others. You know, CPD encompasses a huge range of activities, and it might be that you've already done lots of CPD, but just haven't recorded it. Whether you're ready to apply now or not, download the application pack, study the guidance notes carefully, find out exactly what you need to do. And if there is an educational requirement, check your qualifications to see what the first steps are. Have a look at the competencies, have a look at the competence grid. If you can start mapping your training, your experience, your achievements against those competencies, and do a gap analysis exercise. So you'll be able to determine very quickly which ones you can demonstrate and which ones you can't. And then you can talk to your employer, you can talk to your manager about how do you go about addressing those gaps and making sure that you can meet all of the competencies before you apply. And the biggest challenge is often to find the time and get started. We're all busy people, busy lives, busy careers, but just if you can, just sit down, read the guidance, and just work out a plan. Start pulling together all those documents that you need to. There's plenty of help at hand. I've already said, have a look at the guidance notes. Also talk to your sponsors, because part of their role is to ensure your application meets the standard. Talk to your mentor if you have one, or if you have one via EI Connect. Sign up for EI Connect if you haven't already done so, or talk to us. If you just want to talk to someone in the membership team, email us, professionals@energyinst.org, or give us a call on that number there if you'd rather just speak to someone to get some advice. Okay, and that concludes the webinar. If you're leaving us straight away, thank you very much for listening. If you're staying for questions, I'll put aside 10 or 15 minutes now for questions. Just bear with me a couple of moments, and I'll read through those and attempt to answer them. So a question here about the difference between chartered environmentalist and chartered energy manager, and there probably is some crossover between the two. I would say, I mean, the best advice I can give is to have a look at both. Have a look at the guidance notes for both. Have a look at the competencies that are required for both, and then you will see some clear differences between the two as well. And then maybe do that mapping exercise that I mentioned to see where your skill set fits. Which competencies can you demonstrate the most? And that's probably the best way to ascertain, which of those two titles is most suitable for you and the role that you hold. A question about academic certificates. Perhaps they are lost. You can't get hold of them. So if that is the case, I'm not sure if you can. We've definitely had this in the past where you're able to obtain some sort of confirmation from the university that you studied at. Are you able to get an email or a letter, just something from the university to confirm that you studied what you did, where and when, basically? That should be an option for you. So a couple questions here about CPD and the competencies that you need to demonstrate. In terms of the competencies and how far back you need to backdate them, we normally, it depends how much of your career is relevant. You can, when you're demonstrating the competencies, you're giving 2, maybe 3 examples against each one. But if even if you did something 10 years ago, but it's actually really relevant and it really shows that you meet that particular competence, then yeah, absolutely include it. So there's not necessarily a rule about how far back you go, but what I would say is just try and refer to as much of your career as possible. So you've got examples from more recently, and if relevant, you've got examples from sort of a longer time ago. Question about how much experience you need, and I should have covered this in the webinar. It's a question we get quite a lot. So we normally recommend that you have sort of 4 to 5 years relevant experience in energy, whichever discipline it is. But that's not a hard and fast rule, and that's because we've had candidates in the past who have many more years experience than that, but weren't successful, and we've had candidates who maybe had slightly less than 5 years or 4 years, and they made the grade. They were successful, and that's because it's less about how many years experience you have and time served in industry. It's more about demonstration of competence. If you have 4 years experience, but you can comfortably demonstrate all of the competencies, then brilliant. If you have, I don't know, 7 or 8 years experience, and there are clearly some gaps in the competence grid, then obviously you're not ready to apply. So even though we say we recommend that you have 4 to 5 years minimum experience, I would approach it less about time served and more about whether you can demonstrate all the required competencies. A question about sponsor references and whether they are whether they qualified to sponsor you. So sponsors, First of all, they don't need to be Energy Institute members. They can be members of any professional body, institute, or society. They don't have to be registered with the EI. Your sponsors do need to be at an equivalent grade or higher to the one you're applying for. So an associate member or equivalent with another body wouldn't be able to sponsor you for a member application or a fellow application or a CEng application. So they need to be registered at an equivalent level or higher than the one you're applying for. We know that this isn't always possible, and what we recommend in those situations is that you submit the best 2 sponsors that you can find. Make sure they write some really good supporting comments on the form, and then it's at the discretion of our membership panel, our assessors, as to whether they are suitably qualified. And we often say, I think it says in the guidance notes, that one of your sponsors, if possible, should be your line manager or your line director, because they can, they are very familiar with the work. They should be very familiar with the work that you are doing, and they should be able to provide quite a strong reference. Another question about CPD and whether you need evidence of having attended a webinar or of reading the EI journal. No, not necessarily. I mean, it is good CPD if you've attended an EI webinar or any webinar that's about energy or has helped you to build your knowledge or skill set, then you should include it as CPD if it's relevant. Similarly, with reading the EI journal or the digital magazine, or maybe you're doing your own independent reading or research, then yeah, you should include that in your CPD record. And similar with the competence grid, with CPD, we say go back 2 or 3 years maybe, and just pick the most relevant CPD that you've done. That's what we'd advise. But if you did need to pick 1 or 2 activities that you did a long time ago and they are relevant, then that's fine to include. We have produced a CPD guidance document. It's called The Best You Can Be. And if you go to our website and you go to membership and careers again and click on CPD, then you'll be able to download the guidance document from there. It's called The Best You Can Be, and it's a really comprehensive guide on what types of CPD activity there are, what you can include as CPD, where you can record it, etc. So I'd highly recommend downloading that from our website. Okay, if there are some questions here that I'm not answering because they need a bit more thought, need me to go away and check, then I will make sure I've got all your contact details, so I'll make sure that I answer those questions after we finish the webinar today. Don't worry, they won't be ignored. A question about university degrees or qualifications obtained in a European university, so not a UK-based university. I'm assuming that question is asking if they can be accredited for one of our engineering titles. It could be. It depends if they are. We do have international agreements in place, basically, where qualifications achieved internationally are recognised as equivalent to accredited qualifications achieved here in the UK. So it could be that they are accredited, but we need to check that out. So best thing to do if you're not sure is email us with details of your academic qualifications. Or, as I said, fill in the interim registration application form, list your qualifications there, wherever you obtain them, and we'll check that out for you. That might be the safest way of knowing. Okay, we are just about out of time, so I'm going to end the webinar and Q&A there. Like I said, thank you again for tuning in. I hope you found it useful, or at least part of it useful. And we look forward to speaking to you again, and we look forward to receiving your application either soon or in the future. And as I said, if you do think of any questions after today, or you need some advice, don't be afraid to reach out. So thank you very much, and have a great day.